Maybe the most common trend in gaming is the silent protagonist. You know, the blank slate you're supposed to insert yourself onto. You know what it is. Anyhow, Undertale also has a silent protagonist. You! Frisk. It's Frisk. They have no past, motives, or identity outside of their name, and it's only said at the very end of a true pacifist run. Everything else is entirely up to you, whether you save everyone or turn them all into dust. And then Deltarune released. In this one, you get to make a custom character, give them their own soul type, and they're gone. Well, I guess this loser is a close second. In this one, I am Kris. Instead of a grand prophecy of freeing everyone in the underground, the greatest thing I've ever done is not fall asleep in class. I have no friends, and I've already had someone threaten to eat me. Things aren't going well, but suddenly, adventure starts. I'm a part of a big prophecy to close the fountains, creating dark worlds, and save the world. I make friends, have a good time, and I'm in a cage. Why am I in a cage? Wait a second. Who the fuck is that person? This is Kris. I am not Kris. Imagine celebrating Christmas with all your friends and family. It's an annual tradition. The only day out of 365 that you don't feel different from your peers. But as the years go by, people abruptly disappear from this event. First, it was a few people you knew in the neighborhood, then your friends and their parents, and then your father and your brother too. Now you don't really do anything. You don't speak to anyone, your grades aren't good, and the activities you used to find so much joy in just remind you of what you've lost. You thought today was going to be no different than all the rest, with your mother waking you up and sleepwalking through the rest of the day. But instead of sleeping in and ignoring her yells, you get up. You walk around in your room like you've never been there before, analyzing every minute detail as if all of the mundane decorations are one-of-a-kind pieces. But you don't stop there. You try to make conversation with your classmates for the first time in forever. You go on this secret adventure with another outcast in your school. You save the world. You still don't stop there. You walk up and down your town, speaking to everyone, no matter how uncomfortable it must be to try and connect with these people after so long. You're flirting with people, having awkward conversations with childhood friends, talking to people you haven't met before, saying things like long time no see. And worst of all, you are constantly prying into your own life, eagerly looking for any info you can get about yourself. You and your brother's old hangout spot, your past traumas, the full story on your parents' divorce. This entire day, you've been watching as someone who knows absolutely nothing about you pretends to be you, talking to your parents, walking around in your house, sleeping in your bed. But just as this imposter has grown comfortable, just as their eyes close, you decide you've had enough. What you don't realize at this point is that you are permanently stuck with this thing, because you're the vessel for its adventure. You are the protagonist, whether you like it or not. You ever just had an otherworldly entity take over your body? Well, Kris knows the feeling, and the worst part is that this entity keeps looking up all of Kris's search history. If only they used the sponsor of today's video, PIA VPN! By now, you know what a VPN is. It's practically the last line of defense against advertisers literally knowing everything about you. I looked at a has-been cosplay one time! PIA offers absolute protection against your ISP, advertisers, or any random nerd from finding out anything about you, like your IP address or search habits, unless you overcome region block content like stuff on Netflix. I've been watching Haikyuu recently. Haikyuu to the Top isn't available on UK Netflix, so you know, I just went to Japan briefly on a little holiday and now I'm watching it and it's great. It's peak. It's also the only VPN to offer peer-to-peer sharing and has unlimited uses on devices, which is really good for me because I have a lot of devices. With 30-day money-back guarantee, why not give it a try and realize you love it? Especially when you check out with the link in the description, piavpn.com/oranges to get 83% off on private internet access. That's just $2.03 a month. And you also get 4 extra 3 months completely free. At that point, what's the harm in checking out my personal VPN of choice? PIA VPN. The main lesson I took away from Undertale was pay attention to the way you treat people. Every ending emphasizes this in different ways. When you play the game like a normal RPG and just leave once you beat Asgore, you get an ending that highlights how you left things unfinished and failed to make any real change. Pacifist acting as retribution for that, and Genocide practically screaming at you that the way you treat others impacts them in severe ways. But people kinda miss that. A lot of people kinda missed that. So Kara became the scapegoat for all of that, and I think Toby Fox wanted to make sure something similar wouldn't happen with Deltarune, but with an extra bit of horror splashed in. The existential terror of losing control. Let's be real for a second. We've all done pretty awful stuff in video games. No shame, obviously. I don't think the actions you make in an inconsequential work of fiction really means much, but Deltarune asked the questions, what if it did mean much? Segue into next point. The theme for chapter 1 is the player and Kris's lack of control, how their actions cannot influence anything, and Kris's very visible protest against that. Ripping out the player's soul was them taking their life back. So when chapter 2 was finally announced by Toby Fox randomly playing it on Steam, God, he's so cool. You would think that your top priority would be doing something about this, but instead, you wake back up in a now familiar bed as if everything was fine. At the time of this chapter's release, I was expecting a lot, and this wasn't one of them. With an ending that goes out of its way to highlight the separation between Kris and you, this chapter blurs that line all over again. You go to school to bum around in a dark world, and go to the library to finish your project, and here we go again. But this one's a little different. Instead of meeting brand new friends and a wacky and wild adventure, you have to go with your 2 classmates. Birdley, the class smartass, he's arrogant and wants nothing to do with you, and Noelle, the complete opposite of Birdley. She's quiet and reserved and a total doormat who has caught the eye of the main antagonist for the game, Queen. More importantly than all of that is the fact that Kris has history with her, one of their childhood friends who gradually drifted apart over time. And this adventure acts as a way for you all to reconnect. All things considered, I'd say you did a pretty good job. You helped Noelle go over some of her fears and insecurities, and also helped Birdley stop being such a shitter. But let's be honest, do you really think Kris is happy with this outcome? I mean, sure. Maybe Noelle believes she reconnected with a childhood friend, but that wasn't really Kris, was it? Put yourself in their shoes for a sec. Someone controls your actions and makes your life better. Would you be okay with a dynamic like that for a second? Probably not. Personally, someone could make me a millionaire and I'd still hate them. Regardless of what a person does while taking away my agency, they're still taking away my agency. The one and only thing any of us have complete control over is what we do as individuals. Some dude deciding that they don't need to respect such a fundamental part of living to ethically control me would be even more frustrating. To be treated like less than a human, incapable of deciding what's good or bad for me, especially when they have absolutely no idea what either of those things look like for me. And that's a major problem. You do not know Kris. I feel like that's obvious with the amount of people in their life that point out how strange they've been acting recently. You don't know what Kris wants. They could want to invest in Hoktua coin for all you know. Now, obviously they wouldn't do that, and thank God the opportunity never presents itself for that to be the case. What the hell is that? How could I possibly talk about chapter 2 without mentioning my fucking goat? Spamton is a tiny little gremlin thing that really wants your
heart-shaped object.
What the fuck? He used to be a big shot down here, running his little pop-up ad scheme until it just stopped. Everything came tumbling down for him all at once. The last anyone saw of him was after frantically calling someone. As far as anyone else understands, the person on the other end was just garbage noise. Ever since, or at least since you met him, the guy has been a little weird. Parts of his dialogue get cut off and replaced with whatever the fuck this is. When he is asked to recall certain things, all he can say is hyperlink blocked. All in all, I'd say he's quite a scumbag, and his home is a pretty fitting one. You and Spamton have nothing in common, but he takes a liking to Kris. The feeling seems to be mutual, as it's Kris who tells Rousey and Susie to stay behind so they could have a private meeting with Spamton. This meeting being the most important decision they've made up until now, leading into the most important fight you've seen up until now. One where he gets to show all of you just how much of a big shot he really is. With his brand new, super powerful body, one that had put that jester from chapter 1, who I didn't speak about because he wasn't relevant yet, to shame. But even then, everything is still wrong. He doesn't yell at you, but at Kris.
Here I am, Kris! Big, bigger, and better than ever! This power is freedom! I won't have to be just a puppet anymore! Or so I thought. What are these strings? Why am I not big enough? It's still dark, so dark! Kris! Kris! That's right, you! I need you! To be big with me! Very, very big! So big we'll stand up tall and see past the dark! Stand up with our heads in the clouds and look into heaven! I just need that little soul you have!
I think it's quite fitting that this is the first time in the entire chapter that Kris moves without your influence. Every interaction you've had of Spamton was entirely alone. Kris chose to see him alone and fulfill his task despite how obviously shady Spamton is, because this very well might be their only chance at freedom. Spamton seems to be in an almost identical situation as them, so maybe if he's freed, maybe if Kris helps him become a big shot again, then they can figure out a way to save themselves. All of those hopes are shattered upon seeing all of those strings wrapped around Spamton, sending a very clear message to Kris. No matter how high you climb, no matter how detailed the scheme, no matter how many times Kris changes and literally throws you away, they will never truly be free. Without you, without the chains you've wrapped around them, they struggle to even function, walking around like a zombie for only brief intervals at a time before they have to give you back control. And this fight only exists to remind Kris of the futility of ever expecting the invader to stop forcing them to rely on it. During this whole fight, Spamton is still trying to relate to Kris, telling them how they shouldn't remain a heart on a chain forever, how Spamton can still rise up and how he just needs their help and...
Wait! The presses! My wires! They're almost gone! Kris, you're gifting me my freedom! Kris, after everything I did to you, after all the unforgettable deals, free Chromin I gave you, you're finally repaying my generosity! Kris, I understand now, the greatest deal of all! Friendship! Kris, my days as a long-nosed doll are over! Cut that wire and make me a real boy! Are you watching heaven? It's time for Spamton's comeback special! And this time, I live for myself! No, myself and my friends! Here I go! Watch me fly, Mama!
Spamton kinda achieved his goal in the end. He was finally cut free of those strings that blocked out his light, but in doing so, he died. Worst of all, the thing that made him realize this was the friends Kris had. The friends you made for them. Everything positive or negative that happens to Kris is because of you. And if they want to do anything outside of silently protest, they will have to make the same decision Spamton did. I know they're always pretty quiet, but there's no way they're okay with this. The only thing they can do to show their anguish at this new discovery is still being limited by your choices. They can scream, but only if you let them do so. Or you can take away even that tiny luxury and force them to hide their terror with a strained, "I'm fine." But why would you let that get you down? You had so much fun and helped so many people. Noelle isn't scared of mice because of you. Birdly isn't the fucking worst because of you. You even played matchmaker and helped Noelle and Susie get closer to one another. And now you get to hang out with Susie as a reward. Today's been great. Despite all of the good you did today, Kris still steps on your shoes and opens another dark fountain? Why? Shameless plug. You know exactly where I'm going with this. So my ego is proportionate to my sub count. You should follow me and join the Discord and give me money. Thank you. Chapter 3 represents a crossroads between you and Kris's goals. Kris just opened a dark fountain in their own home, and you're destined to seal all of them. This is the first time you would have ever given thought to Kris's desires, instead of just assuming they align with yours. A thought that only grows with each passing minute of the chapter. Tenor, oh, by the way, this is Tenor, asks you very basic questions about your life. Ones you'd be able to answer easily if you had been there, but you weren't. Kris was. This must have been a very cathartic moment for them. You can bullshit your way through a day or two as Kris, but when pressed on their past, things set in stone, years away from your influence, you embarrass yourself in front of everybody. However, when asked a question about the present, something you can actually change, Kris immediately fights back. But at the same time, this must be such an uncomfortable chapter for them. They have done everything they could to stop you from finding out about their past. But with the embodiment of that very past coming to life and stopping you from closing the fountain, there really isn't anything they could do. The only respite is that you share a body. Your life is their life, and acts as insurance that no matter how bleak everything is, they will get through it all. You merely take a step in their direction, and they are terrified of you. In the same way you don't know Kris, they don't know you. They have no idea what you're capable of. A fear immediately affirmed after you managed to talk Tenor down and are able to seal the fountain. Enter the frauding knight. I know a lot of people lost this fight, but not me. The frauding knight appears and tries to intimidate Big Susie and her crew. It wasn't enough though. In my first try, never mind. After a few minutes and a couple of rude busters, the cutscene merchant tries to run away like a little cow. Despite the warnings, despite the tales of their strength, you decide to go forward with fighting them. And now everyone is facing the consequences of your decision. Not everyone, because someone was pulling their punches the entire fight. When everyone is struck down in a single blow, Kris is instead approached and knighted. This could mean a million different things, but what's clear is that you and Kris have a very different relationship with the Roaring Knight. Once again, you wake up in your house, despite the events that happened last night. But unlike last time, you're being productive. So productive and proactive that someone has to intervene. While your mission is to find the code to the bunker, Kris's is the complete opposite. What's interesting is that they use their uninterrupted freedom to drink chocolate milk and play piano, something you could never do. If Kris is good at piano and you're supposed to be Kris, yet you lack this basic skill for them, how are you supposed to be Kris? The illusion that you and Kris were on the same page was already cracking since the end of chapter 1, but by now, any doubt has been stripped away. You would think this is the part of the video where I say the best thing for you to do is to leave Kris alone, but I'm also not too sure about that. Even if it weren't us, they would still be bound by the promise they made to someone. They would still be a heart on a chain. But then there's Susie. This entire chapter, she has looked destiny in the face, hand flipped it off, literally shattering her destiny over and over again. The message is clear. She will not let anyone control her. Even if she is faced with a final, unavoidable tragedy, she is defiant. This motif is played a lot in the game. It's in both Jevil and Spamton's themes. Two people who aren't able to acquire true freedom, no matter how hard they fought for it. The world bound them to their fates. Susie is fighting valiantly against that same fate. From the beginning, she never fit the idea of a typical hero. Whenever she is told how something is supposed to be, she has fought against it. Like Kris being the only one with an act menu. Not only does she gain the ability to act on her own, she also forces Ralsei to do the same. If she's going to be free, everyone will be too. When faced with these unavoidable destinies, she smashes right through them. But only for her destiny to reappear in another place. You cannot change the role you were given. No one can choose who they are in this world. At the start of the game, you are brought to a void by an unknown force. The only recognizable object is the soul that we piloted in Undertale. This is the Gonna Maker plane, our point of connection to the world. You are told to create a vessel, give it a name, give it a gift. You shape its very being, and in the end, it's thrown away. The game makes it clear to you, your choices don't matter. From Kris's perspective, you must be infinitely more free than they are, controlling their movements, making them speak, dragging them on this adventure for you to experience. But in reality, you are bound by the same fate, bound to an agreement with someone or something even higher up than you. You are also a heart on a chain, with forces pushing you towards this unavoidable destiny, unchangeable, inevitable, unstoppable. But when has this ever stopped you before? You've taken destiny into your own hands before. You faced down the god of hyperdeath, beings with even more power than you. You've beaten impossible odds time after time after time. For better or worse, you have made the world bend to your will. So why should it be any different now? If the point of Deltarune is giving up control, why should you listen? It's a bunch of lines of code. They have no power over your actions. Kris can stop you from controlling their actions for now, but what about everyone else? What about Noelle? You lead her down a path eerily similar to one you know far too well, but it's different. When you were Frisk, it was easy to separate yourself from the suffering of these monsters. As far as they were concerned, you just met. Here, Kris has a life. They know this person, and you're using those years of memories against them to bend Noelle to your will. Freeze every darkener in sight. Grow stronger. You do this until her perception of the world aligns with yours, so much so that the battles are blending together. She is blacking out with no memories of her actions. Her only foot in reality left is the idea that this is all a good thing, because she's getting stronger. Her mind is so fractured, she doesn't recognize her friend Birdly, only seeing him as another enemy to freeze. You won't allow her to do it the normal way though. You have to make sure she follows all of your orders no matter what. So you tell her to cast a spell she doesn't know, and after a single, chilling, proceed. Your control, your will has twisted this world. When you arrive in Queen's Mansion, you find your actions have allowed Spamton to take over. And worst of all, he was watching you do this. So in your fight, he doesn't utter Kris's name once, because he sees right through you. And the fact that wanting control at this point is meaningless if the only person he could relate to has lost their voice and had it replaced with yours. As you're about to finish Spamton off, he tries to seal you in an endless battle. This gives you a weird sense of deja vu. Kris calls for Rouse, but nobody came. Kris called for Susie, but nobody came. You call for Noelle. And without a moment of delay, she erases Spamton from this world. The day after, you go to church. You see Noelle again, and she invites you over for a private chat. Everything is going down as normal, till Kris enters Noelle's room. Normally, you have no power without a vessel, but in your quest for absolute control, you begin to break the game, bending the world inside to your will, to continue to exert your control over everyone else. only reason you're allowed to continue in this world is because Kris needs you. Instead of silently protesting your actions, they will fight against your control at every moment for the rest of the chapter. But it's a fight they inevitably lose, as the damage has already been done. You have ruined Kris's life because you believed your will was more important than their own, that your freedom was more important than everyone else's, and that is why you shouldn't be Kris. You can't be Kris. You don't know Kris, and you are not Kris.